I have not. We typically don't RSVP for these meetings. But Tamara reached out to make sure that we had a quorum. So I'm assuming she knew who said yes and who didn't.
Yeah, I think she did not hear back from Dawn, so.
Just an FYI, I just got a signal, the internet's unstable, so it may drop off and I'll have to come back in.
Well, if it does, we will wait for you because we will not have a quorum if you drop off.
Well,
We've
usually I
always,
get right back in, but
we've always considered you unstable, Terry.
sometimes I am.
Aren't we all?
Seems like lately I'm just rushing from one thing to another thing to another thing and hoping it'll slow down. I haven't done I haven't had my taxes done yet. I prepared everything last night, and then I was going to call the place that I haven't done today, and time I got home, it was too late.
Well, my birthday is shortly before the 15th of April. And I have to say, you know, people complain about Christmas birthdays and Halloween birthdays, but I never have a
I thought you were
party.
going to have that say something to do with taxes.
Well,
you were
the
gonna
thing is,
say that
everyone's
had
always
something-
busy doing their taxes, so
Okay.
they never, you know, I'm exaggerating. No need to feel sorry for me.
Well, I
but
don't usually get all the information sent to me until February or even March sometimes. So I always figure, you know, that's when I'll do them. I'm later than normal this year. I've had some other commitments, this last weekend and 2 weekends ago, and it's out of town, and that kind of threw a ringer in it.
So Stephanie, we have 4 of 8. Is that considered a quorum?
Tamara told me 5.
Yeah,
Okay,
have to have a majority. That's the way I understand it.
okay.
Was that an honorary board member?
Hold on, Don is asking me for the link for the meeting.
Good. Hello, Nick.
And hello, Michelle.
And Sarah and Zach.
And Sharon.
And we
Stephanie,
already said
I-
hi to Sharon.
I emailed Stephanie, but I figured out that Zoom link is on the Google Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, thank you so much for helping with the map for the garage sale.
Yep.
Hey, Nick, while we're waiting, I was just curious because the garage sale maps that I've seen, I know yours looked a little different and I couldn't remember your name when I emailed Stephanie. But a lot of people, or at least some of the garage sales that I've gone to where there've been neighborhood sales, have basically just used a Google map and put the dots on it for the sales. I know yours was a little different, as I recall.
I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear over my heater. I turned it off.
Oh, I'm sorry. What I was saying was that some of the maps that I've seen for garage sales, I used to go to a lot of neighborhood type garage sales. I haven't been to one for several years now, but the maps were using a Google map, and then they'd put like a dot with a number on it for the sale. It wasn't something that was drawn or put together. It was basically just the Google map with, as far as the map, and then the reverse side had all the information on it.
By the way, I just want to say for the people who have just come on board, we are waiting for a fifth board member so that we have a quorum, and we can't start official business till then. So right now, here he comes, Don Levine. So, okay, great. I think we have a quorum. I see Don and Terry and Kelly and Richard. I think you're back there, but could you confirm by saying something, please? You're muted, Richard.
If I turn my video on, I lose all audio. So,
okay, great. I mean, not great, but
I'm
okay.
conserving resources.
Yes, yes. All right, great. So welcome everybody to the Rose City Park Neighborhood Association board meeting. I am the vice chair, and since the chair is absent, I will be chairing the meeting today. I wanted to start by acknowledging that we occupy unceded land, and the original inhabitants, including the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kayapuyah, Malala, and many other tribes who made their home along the Nichiwana, the Great River. I was listening today to a podcast about the Indian Child Welfare Act, which is under attack. And it's very interesting to think about children of the tribes, one-third of whom, spend time in foster care across the nation. I was very moved by that. So this is not just something that happened long ago. There are still things happening now. I also wanted to go through the neighborhood agreements, if I can find them here in my notes. I know I have them. I printed everything out. Here they are. Okay. So this is about conduct at the meetings. We will take collective and individual ownership. We will center and prioritize the most marginalized voices. We will assume best intentions and bring our best intentions. We will use ouch and oops to identify harms and to swiftly apologize for harms that we may have created. We will take space and we will make space. We will listen for understanding, remain respectfully engaged. We will deal with issues, not with people. We will be willing to experience discomfort in difficult conversations, and we will expect that difficult issues will not be fixed quickly, but will continue to work to support and engage our neighborhood and the communities around us. Thank you. So the first order of business is to review and approve the agenda for today's board meeting. So I would welcome a motion for that.
I would move to approve the agenda as it was presented to us.
Thank you. Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second, do you have somebody to take notes, Stephanie?
Oh, thank you for reminding me. I think I have Don Levine to take notes. Don, you are being volunteered to take notes. Would you accept that assignment? You're muted.
Probably a good thing I was muted. Yeah, can we go back to the beginning of the meeting?
No, but we'll do our best to fill in any gaps.
We moved to approve the agenda.
Yeah, so that was moved by
Richard?
by
Richard.
Richard. And I believe seconded by Kelly.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye, raise your hand.
I,
All opposed, same sign. Okay, it's approved unanimously. The next thing is to review and approve the board meeting minutes from the last meeting. And I suppose, am I supposed to actually put these up so that everyone can see them at this point? Sorry, I'm new at sharing the meeting. Or,
we have sometimes done that and sometimes not. Stephanie.
okay, so are there, before we take a formal motion, are there any comments on the meeting minutes from March 1st? And does anyone want to take a moment and look at them?
I'm guilty because I didn't read them. I apologize, but
Yeah, let's take just a brief moment.
I don't have them here with me.
Okay.
I gave sharing permission, Stephanie.
Sorry, say again. Oh, you'd like sharing permissions. Let me give
I
you
gave
sharing.
you. You
Oh, you
have
gave
sharing-
me. Okay. So, hold on. Let me, it's going to take me a second to pull these up. So I'm going to ask that, that we review the treasurer's report, Richard, and then I will come back to the minutes.
All right,
Thank you.
sure. So at the end of February, we had $14,558.82 in our bank. In March, we had a couple of expenses, one for our website through DreamHost for $135.62, and for Fred Meyer for the general meeting food for $24.48. We got a whopping 61 cents in interest from our bank. So we now have $14,399.33. So almost $14,400. So that's the activity for March. Not a lot.
And
Okay.
just to say, the popcorn at our general meeting was a donation by me.
Okay, thank you, Terry.
Thank you. It was delicious. Okay, so would anyone like to move to approve these, the treasurer's report?
Stephanie, treasurer's reports are accepted.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. How does that work?
Just
We
say-
move to accept it? Somebody moves to accept it?
That's correct.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
So move.
So moved by Terry. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kelly.
Seconded by, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. The motion passes, and I am ready to share my screen for the minutes from the last meeting on
Great.
March 1st. So we had a motion to pass for PBOT to combine the two projects. Honestly, I'm not quite sure how to handle this. Maybe I'll just put it up for a bit and scroll through it and people can read.
Great idea.
I think that's good.
right, well, when,
I do have a question here.
please.
And I know this was said, but I asked why are the street signs so high? And I was referring to the ones that are in the planters or whatever in the pipes in the center. And in parentheses, same as stop signs. I
Same
don't think
height.
I challenged it, but that's not true. They're actually higher than stop signs.
Okay, so I think that maybe, we'll be discussing this in today. So is this an accurate, is
I
this an
think-
accurate report of what the discussion was?
I think it is, yes.
Okay,
Could be.
Okay, I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
I will second.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All right. All right. So next on the agenda is a report from the CNN Land Use TOP. Terry, maybe you'll tell us what that stands for exactly when you give us
DOP.
the the CNN LUTOP
Oh, LUTOP,
report.
land use, yeah. LU, LUTOP, yeah, Land Use and Transportation Committee. That's really all it is, LUTOP. That's just the
Great.
initials. I'm
So-
sorry. You threw me there for a minute. And there's nothing new. Basically what we did was just discuss the last meeting. We just went through the different projects in the neighborhood, and there was only like about 4 of us there. So there's really nothing that reflects us. I mean, I just basically talked about Sacramento Street, and that was it. So nothing new that's really going to directly impact us that I can report on.
Okay. Any questions for Terry?
I will say one thing. There was real concern. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to butt in on you again. There was because I had to think for a minute. There was real concern about the Madison Suites on 82nd Avenue. I know that's not our neighborhood, but there's a lot of crime and stuff that goes on there. And in fact, there was just a shooting there here about a week or so ago, another shooting. And it seems like it's all related to the Madison Suites, which is that little kind of cabin-like hotel between Fremont and Sandy on the east side of the street.
And when you say seems, is there some place we could go for some factual backup to that?
Well, you can certainly talk to Allison. I mean, it's believed that that's where the problem is, and the city has yet to really come in and do something about it. I mean, I'm going by what I heard, but it's the fact is that if there's crime and drugs and things that are somewhat related to the homeless people that are going on there that are illegal, it could lap over into our neighborhood. I mean, it's close enough that it could. So that's the only reason I bring it up. But it's an issue that I'm thinking I think that's Madison South. Maybe it's not, but it's not Madison South. I guess it's Roseway, but they're working on it, trying to get more policing and investigation of actually what is going on, because it's kind of hard to tell. But it seems like there's a lot of crime centered around that little motel. You're looking strange, Stephanie.
Okay. Any?
I mean,
Well, I would like us to base what we do on facts that we can back up.
yeah. Well,
yeah.
I suggest.
So
I
rather
suggest
than it goes back to our value of
right. I
respecting
suggest
marginalized voices, centering and
suggest you talk to
prioritizing
Allison, 'cause she
marginalized
can give you
voices.
better reporting than I am, because she's been involved with it. Allison's our CNN, the executive director of CNN. She's been directly involved. I'm just trying to repeat what I've heard.
Right. Okay. Other questions? Yeah, Don.
In the minutes, I'm just going to refer to this back to Terry's original statement that there was some concern voiced at the Lou Top about Madison Suites and keep it at that. Since
Yeah.
that was actual report. So if
Okay,
that's all right, everybody.
That
Sounds
makes
fine
sense
with
to
me.
me. Thank you. Other questions for Terry? Okay, the CNN board report. Don, you're on.
Okay, I believe that was on the 1st or 2nd of the month. One of the things they reported out on was out of their $30,000 grant and the small grants that were awarded out, there was a total of $2,365 that was unallocated. They allocated everything out to the people that made the requests. There was still money left over. It was transferred to admin, which is in line with city policies, and that means that CNN can retain and use the dollars at their discretion. So there might be some other funding opportunities out of that. See, Beaumont Wilshire, there was safety on Fremont. There was some discussion with PBOT concerning that ongoing concern. Presentation in Cully by Commander Hardesty, met with Living Cully, suggested better inclusion with the neighborhood events mixers. Portland Parks, a fun free-for-all summer event. Dignity Village, One City Shelter will be set up near DV, which I'm not sure what that means, but near Dignity Village. So One City Shelter will be set up near Dignity Village. Madison South is having movies in the park for the first time in 2 years. Aside from that, there was no other salient issues presented.
Where is Madison South going to be doing that?
They did not relate that at the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Terry,
Don, is the village that's being set up near Dignity Village, is that the one that's out there on 33rd Drive west of the Armory?
I believe so, Terry. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I believe so. I believe that's what I recall.
any other questions for Don on the CNN board report?
What does CNN stand for again?
Central, go ahead.
Central Northeast neighborhoods.
Okay,
Neighbors.
thank you.
Okay,
It's the umbrella organization for the 23 Central Northeast Neighborhood Associations.
Thanks.
all right, so we are only 5 minutes behind schedule going into the next item, which is the Northeast Sacramento Slow Streets. We have an action item. We are scheduled to wrap this up by 7:45 or so. So Richard, if you would keep time, I would be quite grateful.
Got it.
Is there someone who can present the action item?
I mean, the action items.
Items. Okay, Kelly, you win by speaking first. When I was a kid, my dad at the end of dinner, we had a freezer in the basement, and he would always say, "So who wants ice cream?" 4 kids, you know. Person who spoke up first had to go down to the freezer. So you're on,
Stephanie,
Kelly.
I would like ice cream. So Tamara has put together a bunch of work, and she just issued a memo a couple of hours ago that essentially is 7 pages of synopsis and recommended action items. And I don't know how widely this has been distributed. It went to all the board members. So it has not been posted to the website. And so we're a little bit of a deficit for that. So I'm going to summarize a few things and then highlight a couple of things and not go through all of the background. But feel free, anybody that is really involved in this issue, to interrupt me and with questions. So just a little bit of background. The Slow Streets project has dealt with two intersections on Sacramento that we're going to talk about tonight. One is at 62nd and Sacramento. The other one is at 64th and Sacramento. So in our January Land Use and Transportation meeting, the Land Use and Transportation Committee made a decision, or excuse me, a recommendation to the board for a crosswalk and concrete bollards at 62nd and Sacramento, and to form a subcommittee to look at a more aesthetically pleasing solution at 64th and Brzee, including preserving the view corridor, and to replace the candlesticks with a more aesthetically pleasing solution. Both of those recommendations were taken to the board at the March 1st meeting. And both of those recommendations were revisited. So a decision at the March 1st board meeting was to add the crosswalk at 62nd and Sacramento, and to defer the bollards at 62nd in Sacramento and the solution at 64th and Sacramento to the April board meeting, which is where we are now. So there has been a number of options that have been explored with PBOT. Tamara has put together, as I said, this memo. And Tamara and I have a few suggestions to make to the board. And I'm going to read some of those. The first one is to recommend to PBOT the approval of the Northeast 64th and Sacramento slow streets with 2 westerly permanent garden bollards without signage mounted inside. So the bollards are 58 inches in diameter. They are painted on the street. There are, right now in the current design, there are 3 bollards shown in the current design. We're suggesting that the east bollard be deleted and that the 2 westerly bollards be retained. And then, as Terry talked about a little bit earlier, if the signage is placed in the bollards, the signage is 12 feet tall, plus or minus. And we would like the signage placed to the side behind the curb. And those only have to be as tall as the stop sign. So that's essentially the first recommendation at 64th and Sacramento.
So Kelly, if I can just interrupt you, I tried to type that, what you were saying, so I could put it in the chat for people. May I read to you what I have and you can correct it as necessary?
Sure.
So you and Tamara recommend approval of the Northeast 64th and Sacramento slow streets with 2 westerly concrete bollards, but not the easterly one. Is that correct?
Correct.
Can I ask for a clarification on that?
Please hold on one second. So
Oh, sure.
let me just finish and then and also, and no signs inside the bollards. Signage should be placed behind on the curb.
Now, before we get too deep into this discussion, I just need to do a side note, especially for all the neighbors. And Tamara and I have not talked about this as a final thing. What Scott Cohen from PBOT has said is that we cannot change the design so close to construction. It requires altering approved plans, which require dedicating more engineering, maintenance, operations, and project management staff time after months of planning and outreach completed. Staff has worked diligently to reach out and incorporate feedback from Rose City Park neighborhood, dating back to the first of my 2 presentations in April of 2021. We look forward to continued discussions about how we can improve upon infrastructure in the neighborhood and make changes after the project is implemented. So that's a caveat to the discussions tonight, is that PBOT may go ahead with the installation as originally designed, but it's, in my mind, this is again my opinion, it's temporary because the bollards, the concrete bollards, can be moved. They just can be picked up and moved, or they can be picked up and deleted. And the signage is the same. You know, if they end up installing signage in the bollards, the signage can come out of the bollards and be reinstalled along the side of the road. So, so we're going to talk tonight about what we think the board should recommend, which is what I talked about a few minutes ago at 64th. But people should understand the caveat is you might see the work being done regardless of what our recommendation is.
Can I still ask for a clarification?
Sure.
Yes.
So you were saying the 2 westerly concrete bollards, are those on Sacramento or are those on that already painted area?
They're on Sacramento. And if you walk down there, you can see the round circles painted on the pavement.
Already?
Yep.
Okay.
So, Kelly, again, I just want to make sure that what I've written in the chat is correct. That you and Tamara would recommend approval of the 2 westerly bollards, but not the easterly ones, and also not signs inside the bollards, but signage placed behind on the curb. Is that a fair representation
Correct.
of what you're? And I think I also heard you say that PBOT is asking us, please approve as written.
No, PBOT is saying, regardless of your recommendation, Rose City Park, we may proceed with construction as is. Now, Tamara
Got
feels
it.
strongly about this. I hate to speak for her, but because like the easternmost concrete bollard is in conflict with the view corridor, Tamara feels strongly enough about this that she's essentially told PBOT that we'll go over their head. We'll go to the bureau chief, we'll go to the Joanne Hardesty, who has PBOT under her arm, and then we can take this argument to city council if we have to in order to preserve the view corridor for one.
Okay. Yeah, Terry.
Yeah, one comment and one question, or I guess they're both questions. We're talking about the bollards at 64th, but we're not talking about the candlesticks or anything else, just the placement of bollards and signage. Am I correct on that?
You are
Is that
correct.
what you?
The candlesticks and the crosswalk is action item number 2.
Yeah, but the candlesticks and the crosswalk are in 2 different locations.
No,
Or are you talking about the crosswalk across 64th as opposed to
Correct.
across Sacramento?
correct. The
Okay, all right.
candlesticks and the
Okay,
crosswalk
I understand.
and
All
all
right.
of that is going to come up as a second.
Okay, that's you've answered my questions. Thank you.
Richard.
I was going to say, we're using up a lot of precious time here. So
Okay.
let's go on with the next recommendation from Lutop.
Thank you.
Well, shouldn't we vote on each individual one?
No, let's listen to all of them. We'll listen to all of them and then we'll accept motions.
So the second recommendation to the board from Tamara and myself is that we recognize neighbor Ben Joy, a nearby resident to Northeast Brzee and 64th, as the project lead in crafting and design, doing fundraising and installation for a PBOT approved modified design for this crosswalk. So this item deals with the candlesticks and the yellow painted field. And we are forming a subcommittee. Our neighbor Ben Joy has volunteered to lead that and to work with PBOT to find an aesthetically pleasing alternative design, in all likelihood, potentially some planters or some other better solution that'll replace the candlesticks and that large painted area.
Okay, so I've put that in the chat as the second recommendation, that the neighbor Ben Joy shall be project lead for design, fundraising, et cetera, for modified design for the crosswalk candlesticks at 64th and Sacramento. Is that
Correct.
Kelly, okay.
Was it Sacramento or Brazil?
It's all 3.
It's a cluster intersection with
Okay,
64th and Sacramento.
okay, thanks.
Okay, Kelly, what is third recommendation?
Third recommendation essentially is that we add to the March 1st decision by the board for installing a crosswalk at Northeast Sacramento at the top of the Rose City Park stairs near the 62nd intersection. But we recommend the installation of a raised reflective pavement marker system, which is a safety device used on roads, retrofits and vehicle headlights. This is identified in the Portland Traffic Design Manual, Volume 1. These reflective pavement markers would serve not only as a nightly visual reminder of the crosswalk, but also when vehicles run over them, they provide a physical and auditory reminder of the crosswalk's importance. Now, just 2 minutes of background here is that when we went up and walked the site, we were kind of excited about doing a raised crosswalk, which would be a further deterrent to speed and like an additional speed bump. And Scott Cohen at PBOT said, no, we can't do that without modifying the other 2 speed bumps, because the speed bumps need to be 400 feet apart. This would be kind of 200 feet from 2 speed bumps. So he couldn't do a raised crosswalk. Tamara and I are suggesting these raised reflective pavement markers.
I have a question. So there is some question of a bollard also at 62nd. So
Number 4.
oh, that's number 4. Thank you. Okay. Terry, if it's a clarification of what he
Yes,
just
yeah,
said.
it's about the crosswalk. It's my understanding, if they do a raised crosswalk there, they are going to have to do a lot of ADA changes as well, which may even include replacing the stairs going down to the park.
So Terry,
we're
in the
talking
interest,
about a huge amount of dollars.
Terry, in the interest of time,
No,
I'd like to
so
get
I'm
all
done.
of the recommendations on before we start
I just
discussing
wanted you
anything.
to know what it involves, that's all.
So Kelly, number 4.
So number 4, we are going to recommend, we would suggest that the board recommend to PBOT to hold off on the installation of the slow street bollards at 62nd until an assessment can be made of the safety efficacy of the crosswalk improvements. Where our thought is that if they monitor the installation of this crosswalk with the markers, that maybe they won't need the bollards, the traffic will slow enough to make that happen. Now, Tamara's provided 3 other alternative motions to this one, which include installing the garden bollards with the posted signs separated from the bollards, so off to the side. But I think our first recommendation is that we tell PBOT to hold off on the installation of the bollards until the crosswalk is complete and maybe these reflective barriers are installed.
We have about 5 minutes left in this period.
Okay, so I heard this time, Kelly, the 4th recommendation, actually, you mentioned 2 different versions. One is to hold off on the installation of the slow streets bollard pending other safety measures and seeing how they do. And another is to have the bollard put in, but with the signs on the side. So in the interest of time, and because there has been much opportunity for public testimony on this, I would like to reserve this time for board member discussion. And I would like it just, we're going to run it Robert's rules. So if you have something to say, one chance to say things and please respect the time. So would anyone like to speak to, well, we don't have a motion on the floor. Sorry. Would anyone like to put a motion on the floor?
I would like to move that we accept all 4 of the recommendations to the board, the 64th and Sacramento, the Ben Joy Committee, the crosswalk with the reflected pavement markers, and the holding off on the installation of the bollards.
Kelly, could I convince you to split out the last one from the first 3 in the interest of time?
I can do whatever you would like.
I
I'd like to
think-
move that we move on the first three recommendations.
Is there a second to that motion?
I will second that.
Is there discussion of any of the first three? And this is, we're limiting to board. We've had public testimony. So I'm sorry. We have a lot to get through. So board, so is there discussion among the board of any of the first three?
Well, my concern is that we are making recommendations to PBOT, who has already made up their mind what they're going to do. And what effect will our recommendations have upon what's actually going to happen? We're a neighborhood association that doesn't really have a lot of clout in the PBOT area. So we go in and we try and we do the best we can. We make our recommendations and PBOT says, well, no, we've already started this. We're going to go ahead and do what's going on. I think we need to recognize that, the neighbors are not real pleased with what PBOT has. And I think in their testimony, they've proven to me that it needs to be modified. And I would think that, if we get this done, let's put it out and send it to them. And I saw the emails from Tamara earlier today about the view thing and how upset the neighbors are, and she is with that. And I would encourage her to continue going on to the council with that if need be. End of my comments.
Thank you. Terry?
Well, try to make this really quick. A painted crosswalk is already there at the 62nd at the top of the stairs. And I would like to make a amendment to the motion to see how well that performs before any other work is done, because I do not think that we will get a raised crosswalk based on the cost of doing it and the ADA requirements that would have to come along with it.
Well,
So
Terry, just to let you know that we are not proposing a raised crosswalk.
Oh, okay.
We are proposing some additional reflective barriers installed, but those are flush with the pavement. They stick up just a little bit.
Okay, I know what you're talking about. Little reflectors or something like that glued to the pavement, right?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine. All right. I withdraw. Sorry, I misunderstood what the motion was.
And could I just ask that if you are a neighbor and have a comment to make, that you can put that in the chat line, and I promise to read all of the comments that are put in the chat line. I understand what Stephanie is trying to do, but Susan, I'd like you to put whatever your comment is in the chat line, if you could.
Don?
I don't know how to do that.
Okay, this is just to clarify, Richard, your concern that the PBOT plan has already been designed, the equipment, the materials have already been purchased, and the work has already been scheduled. These recommendations would be used in any attempt to modify whatever PBOT, the original design, is being put in place. Is that correct? That this will be kind of our first step to address modifications further down the road?
That is correct. We hope that PBOT will look at these recommendations and potentially easily modify their design. And I appreciate what Richard is saying. We have encountered this 100 times at the Land Use and Transportation Committee meetings. We endeavor to continue to write letters and to make recommendations because we think that's our role. So just like tonight, I think our role is to deal with these motions, and we'll do our best to get PBOT to listen.
Further discussion? So it's been moved, has it been seconded? I've lost track. Was there a second to that motion?
Yes,
Okay,
Richard second.
great. Thank you.
Yes.
So we're going to take a vote. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Aye. Aye. All opposed? Same sign. Okay. The motion passes, but not unanimously. And we're a
Who
bit
was
over.
opposed to that? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought you raised your hand opposed.
No,
Don.
I
Oh, well,
am.
then I think it's unanimous. I believe it's unanimous. Great.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So now there for the fourth recommendation, there are we have I mean there are two things that Kelly mentioned. Either a motion to hold off on the installation of the slow streets bollards until the efficacy of other safety measures can be measured, or to ask for a garden bollard with signs on the side. So a concrete bollard with flowers or something, and the signs not in the bollard but somewhere else. Is that, Kelly? Did I?
Well, that's a summary. Tamara actually listed 3 alternatives. One was to go ahead with the bollards as PBOT designed. The second one was to go with the signage separated from the bollards. And the third one was just the signs, no bollards at this intersection. So what Tamara and I are recommending is that we tell PBOT to hold off on the installation until they can do some assessment as to whether or not the crosswalk with the reflectors is adequate by itself.
Okay. So would someone like to make a motion?
I would like to move that we go with Tamara's and my recommendation that we tell PBOT to hold off on the installation of the slow street bollards at 62nd until an assessment can be made to the safety efficacy of the crosswalk improvements.
Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Discussion. Terry.
I would like to change the wording of that to the point that I don't know exactly how to express it, but the word until still says to me that, well, you're going to put it in no matter what kind of data you get back from the assessment. So I would like to change the wording so that the bollard would only be, and I don't know what words to use, but the bollard would only be there if problems are demonstrated that it's needed, and I don't think that it's needed. So I don't know how to do that, Kelly, but the word until to me means that, well, we're going to make a study, but we're going to put it in anyway, and I disagree with that. So is there a way we can change the words with an amendment or a friendly amendment so that the word until is not part of the motion, Kelly?
Sure, we could recommend to PBOT they hold off the installation of the slow street bollards at 62nd. I'm looking for another word for until.
Do you need the word until? Or can you just put a period at the end of that?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And a study be done or
And
something like
PBOT
that.
will then do a study to understand the efficiency of the intersection with just the crosswalk.
Good. That sounds fine with me.
Okay,
Kelly,
I'm
that
my
again?
motion to do that.
Could you say
So-
that again?
So we recommend that PBOT hold off on the installation of the slow street bollards at Northeast 62nd. We also recommend that PBOT assess the safety efficacy of the crosswalk improvements.
I would
Sounds good.
accept that as an amendment. for my second.
Okay,
Okay, and I have done my best to represent that in the chat. PBOT should hold off on installation of the bollards at 62nd. PBOT should assess the safety of the improvements. That's the motion on the floor. Discussion. Don.
So I'm late to this game, but it was my understanding at a previous meeting that the bollards at 62nd was not part of the original design, and then it was added afterwards with as a result of some input from some members of the neighborhood. Did that become incorporated into the final design, or is it necessary to install it as part of the final design that they have got the materials for?
we don't know for sure. The 62nd intersection was suggested by a neighbor back when we were meeting with PBOT. PBOT said, great idea. Let's go ahead and add another slow streets solution at 62nd. They went ahead with a preliminary design that showed the crosswalk with the concrete bollards. And now we're recommending to them that they hold off on the installation of these bollards.
It also should be known that the neighbor that suggested it in the first place withdrew it after he realized the impacts.
Correct. And in just two more seconds, Susan, if you click on the chat at the bottom line of the Zoom, you'll get a pop-up to the right, and the pop-up to the right will allow you to type in a question or a comment.
Call the question.
So, well, actually, I actually wanted to say something on this question. I'm relatively new to the neighborhood association. I wanted to express my concern that that opposition to a safety improvement that we know is of great interest to people in the neighborhood who have children who cross that intersection. That opposition to that is, I find the strength of it, that opposition, disturbing, given that this is a safety issue. It is the kind of thing that, neighborhood associations are, if not quite on the chopping block. There is feeling growing against neighborhood associations as just agents of NIMBYism. And I think that this kind of public stance is dangerous for the neighborhood association. It certainly gets in the way of something that I had hoped very much to contribute to, which was recruiting people for the board of the association. We have huge issues coming down the pike. Issues having to do with climate change and how we will respond to it, issues of the forces that are making not just Portland but every place in the country less safe, and to stand against this is troubling to me. And I think it is a dangerous kind of stance for the neighborhood association to take. And I really look forward to this much time being spent on things that are of more positive and greater impact for us. I'd also like to say that there has been some argument that the people who live on Sacramento Street should have more of a say than the rest of us who merely walk our dogs there every day or whose children cross that street on a regular basis. And I think going back to our neighborhood agreements in particular, we will center and prioritize the most marginalized voices. In this discussion, I think the voices, and in the neighborhood association itself, the voices of parents are de facto marginalized because they are too busy raising their kids to be able to put in the time that's required to be on the board of a neighborhood association. I feel very strongly about that, and thank you for allowing me the time to express that.
I just want to make
So
one
it's
quick
now we
comment.
are going to call a vote.
It's a
on
safety
the,
hazard.
No,
It's a
Terry,
safety hazard.
Terry, please don't yell at me. I would appreciate a calm tone and also respect
you
for
won't
my
let me
role as chair. We have discussed. I'm
me
going to
speak,
call the
will you?
vote. I'm going to call the vote now. All
Shut
in favor, aye, and raise your hand.
Hey,
Uh,
clarification.
Yes.
This is to the motion number 4 that the recommendation that PBOT hold off on the installation of the bollard at 67 and Sacramento until a study is done about the efficacy of the recommended raised markers and paint crosswalk.
No, the raised markers passed with the previous motion. The motion
Correct.
is in the chat. The motion has 2 sentences. One, that PBOT hold off on installation of the bollards at 62nd, and that PBOT assess the safety of the improvements.
Okay.
That
Thank
is
you.
the motion, and now we are calling a vote. All in favor of that motion, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
So I see 4 votes. And
Aye.
all opposed, that would be me. Okay, the motion passes. All right. Next item on the agenda is the RCPNA all-purpose worksheet. Let me just say, members of the board, if please take a look at it. You've gotten an email with a link to it, and if you have any questions about it or issues with it, please let me know. The pitch here is that this is a way for us to keep all in one place where we, future members of the board, including us in a month when we will have forgotten things, can go back and see how we organized various projects. Richard.
We missed the general meeting review.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so the general meeting review. Okay. Would someone like to lead that? We have a couple speakers lined up. Is that what we're to do here, is discuss what we're going to do at the general meeting?
No, this is the March 29th, the meeting we just had.
Oh, yes, thank you. Okay. So we had, does someone want to take this? Review the meeting?
Well, I know I did the video and got that posted, and it's out there for people to look at, and it took care of the timing. I didn't even turn around to see how many folks we had in the room when I heard that it was packed. And I heard lots of positive responses, so thank you so much for having this. And I think the result of the people being there was testimony to that, how much it was appreciated within the neighborhood. So I think we did a great job with it. It took some lot of work by Kelly in particular to try and get us into the position, and we just don't know what's going to happen at German American Society as far as in the future. I saw a comment that somebody said they're thinking of selling as well as Levang, so I don't know what that means. That would be so sad if it happened. Kelly.
What?
You unmuted yourself, so I figured you're going to say something.
No.
Okay.
I thought the meeting was great. My wife had a follow-up coffee with the neighbors that couldn't come, and she brought out the newsletter and they talked candidates. So I thought, well, that's how neighborhoods should work.
Yeah, great. Okay, now we should go on, I think, maybe to the general meeting for the 24th.
Yes, so.
Right on time.
Okay, great. Yes, so the questions are, what should the format be? Who should the speakers be? We have requested someone from the Charter Commission and someone from Urban Forestry. Oh, I guess this there will be board elections for our neighborhood association board at that meeting.
Yes.
So people who want to run for offices should have some it would be nice to have a little statement for the website. And there's an action item for the general meeting event committee members, and I have to say, I'm not sure what that action item is. Does someone know?
No, I do not.
Okay. So,
So I have reached out to the German American Society to see if they will be reopening for the meeting in May. I'm not very hopeful. Tamara has reached out to the Rose City Methodist Church, where we used to have our meetings down in the basement, to see if they would be open. We also used to have meetings in the auditorium at Rose City Park Elementary School. But then when handicap access became a challenge, but Rose City has installed an elevator, right? Anybody know that?
No idea.
I don't know. Do any of our guests happen to know about an elevator at Rose City Park Elementary?
Anyway, that might be a second option for a location. So maybe Tamara and I will continue to pursue locations.
What about St. Rose of Lima? Is that an option?
We have never reached out to them.
Okay. I have met Father Matt, so I'm not sure I have contact information for him, but I could probably find it. Okay, so and the speakers, I mean, speakers are in progress. I guess if anyone has other ideas for speakers or other topics, this would be a nice time to air that.
Nothing from me.
Okay, and any suggestions from our neighbors who have come out who are not on the board? I think people should feel free to email to events, you know, if you have ideas on that subject. An email to events@rcpna.org would be a great way to send that in. I've put that email in the chat for you. Okay, anything else on the general meeting? I mean, we risk being ahead of schedule.
We just need to be aware that the deadline for the newsletter is like in 2 days.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Yeah, okay. So any suggestions need to go not only to info, but perhaps to editor at rcpna.org so that Linda can know what's going on.
So suggestions to events and also to editor.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, great. By the way, I've been told that when I don't mute myself, my typing is very loud, and I apologize for that. If it's bothered anyone, I don't know what to do about it. Okay, well, let's move on to the neighborhood-wide garage sale. So this is something that Terry and I are organizing. And we have, thanks to Tamara, Tamara has recruited several volunteers to help us with the nitty-gritty stuff. The basic idea is that we need to recruit people to sell by no later than May 1st. And then after that, we are going to switch over to trying to recruit people to buy. So there will be a role for board members and any neighbors who'd like to get involved. I guess let me just say, first of all, the idea is to do something along the lines of what you may be familiar with from Laurelhurst or from Eastmoreland, to have one weekend, the 21st and 22nd of May, when Rose City Park people are encouraged to have yard sales, garage sales, all on the same weekends, so that it will draw people to the neighborhood and more traffic, more sales, more fun for everybody. I talked to one neighbor who said, oh yeah, and then my kids, they'll do a bake sale. And so there's, you know, let's make it an event, let's make it fun. Yeah, so that's on the 21st and 22nd of May. And Nick has offered to help us with making the map. both digitally and on paper, I think. Yeah, design.
Yeah, I sent it in the Slack. I don't know if anyone looked in Slack.
Oh, I need to catch up on Slack. Thank you for that reminder. Yeah, so basically we will soon have a flyer to give out to neighbors for signing up. People can also sign up on the website. I'll put the link in the chat. That's the link for the garage sale. And then once May 1st passes and we know who will be selling, then we will make some posters. And it would be great to have some people volunteer to help put the posters up in coffee shops and various places around the neighborhood. So I would love to get some volunteers for that. If you're interested in that, again, the thing to do is to send to events@rcpna.org with garage sale in the subject line. If you want to volunteer or sell, have a garage sale at your house. Okay. Any questions about the garage sale?
Well, about the map graphic, should we discuss that in the email?
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do that offline.
Okay.
Any other questions about the garage sale?
Are we going to have, ask people to send us in checks for being on the map?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We are asking, the suggested donation is $25 to be on the map.
Yeah, and so no percentages or anything. You want to be on the map, give us $25 and then we'll put you on the map.
Right. And and if you, yeah, and it's a suggested donation. So, donate, like the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Just donate something, but 25 would be sensible and is what we are encouraging. Any other questions? All right. Well, I promise if there's time left at the end, I will fill it with the RCPNA all-purpose worksheet. How about that? Let's move on to concerts in the park. Jeff Gifford, are you here?
No.
No. Can anyone speak to the concerts in the park?
I can only speak to what I have seen from emails, and that is that a band has been selected. I have not seen a contract going out to them. And I know that we are looking at the requirements for doing the noise variance. Jennifer Sandhouse, our secretary, is plotted that out on the map and decided, this is where we need to go. And she's going to be going out and talking to all the folks within that affected area, so that they can I think it just has to be a notification that it's going to be happening. And then we do have to get a variance through the city. That's pretty much all that I have heard on this. Anybody else heard anything further?
Okay. All right. So we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Chip Drop Brigade to help reduce urban fire danger. And I am going to share a document that Tamara wrote up for us. Since no one has seen this before, practically, I'm just going to read this. Our urban forests are dying at an alarming rate due to increasing drought caused by climate change. Within a 1-block radius of my home, this is Tamara writing, I can count 5 dead or dying street trees. The same number appear to be located within people's properties. This is a wildfire disaster waiting to happen. I've written to the Director of Planning and Sustainability, Andrea Durbin, on my concerns about the impact of the drought on our urban forestry, with my stated fear of an urban wildfire. After a week, she responded by stating she shared my fears and offered a draft copy of a budget proposal for more climate change funding. During that week, she gathered 6 other city bureaus to discuss their needs to address my concern and the overall emergency status that is being created by climate change. That budget is attached as Exhibit A. Well, okay, I'm going to put a pin in that. Are the documents available publicly that people can see Exhibit A if they would like to? Does anyone know? Or
I
should
do not know.
Okay, we'll try and figure that out. Also in my email to Andrea was my proposal to start up a chip drop brigade that would bring volunteers to distribute wood chips on all the remaining street trees in our neighborhood. In speaking with Chad Honnell, the owner of Honnell Tree Care, and I think he's going to be a speaker. He's scheduled to be a speaker at our upcoming general meeting.
Correct.
He shared with me that scientifically trees generate 6 times the root structure if they are properly mulched compared with typical turf. Wow. My proposal is fairly inexpensive and could be funded by a GoFundMe account using donations. Chip Drop says they will provide a dump load of wood chips for free, but in reality, a $20 donation gets you a full dump load of hardwood chips brought within 24 hours. Typically, I have no idea how many loads will be needed to cover the RCPNA area, nor how much time it will take. But I do know I already have 5 volunteers ready to help. So this is my proposal. And again, my is Tamara's. To outline a complete work program. I'm not going to read through this work program. We will find a way to make this accessible to everybody. It's quite detailed. I honestly think this is a great neighborhood team building experience. It could include kids with their play wheelbarrows. I also think it's important to think about renters, apartment dwellers, and their building grounds, and the low income people who may or may not speak English or be literate. I'm open to ideas on how best to reach all the populations in need to address this critical issue. So the request is for $200 in funding for door hanger expenses and snacks. So I missed exactly what the door hangers and okay, so let's read the work program so we see what she wants for the door hangers and the snacks. So door hangers to notify people of this free service. Let's see, responders to the door handles could be plotted on a digital map. And then there could be the chip drop brigade with snacks. Okay, okay, so I think she's requesting from the association that we budget $200 to help get this effort started, for not for buying chips, but for informing people about it and eventually providing snacks if there are chip spreading events around the neighborhood. Does anyone?
So Stephanie, if this is a Rose City Park Neighborhood Association sponsored event, don't we have to vote on that before we can contribute $200 to this program? Or is this already been approved by the board?
I don't believe this has been approved by the board as an event. So hold that thought. So I just want to finish what Tamara has written. So finally, if you're interested in supporting the climate change budget proposed by Andrea Durbin just prior to her departure, then please participate in one of the following upcoming events. So she has a list of events where it is possible for citizens to inform City Council of opinions on budgets, and also a way to submit written comments.
First screen I'm looking at.
I'm sorry, say again?
I'm sorry. I was trying to scroll the screen. And
Yeah. Right. I'm controlling the scroll.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So, okay. So, so that's the substance of the memo. And now, and thank you all for supporting me as I learn to do this chairing thing. Okay. So the first thing to do would be to create an event for Rose City Park and commit to it. Is that the idea?
Excuse me, Stephanie, can I suggest a different way to approach it?
Please.
Well, I would suggest, and if it's acceptable, I will move that the board budget $200 to be utilized by any chip drop brigade project as approved by the board. That way, if it comes to pass and we approve it, then the money's available in the budget.
All right. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second that, Don.
Any discussion? Okay, let's put it to a vote. The motion is to budget $200 for a chip drop event, should such an event be approved by the board at a later date. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, the motion passes. Great, and so I would encourage all of us to start. Hopefully we can we can figure out what the event should be exactly, and maybe pass it expeditiously at our next meeting if people agree. All right. Okay, I think it is time for committee reports. But since we are so far ahead of schedule, I'm going to suggest that we take 5 minutes so that everyone can just get up, stretch, move around a little bit. And my clock says that it's 17 minutes past 8. So how about we meet back here at 22 minutes past 8, 5 minutes from now?
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. I hope everyone is completely refreshed. And yeah, if I hope someone managed to drink a whole beer in that 5 minutes. I was definitely
I hope
tempted,
not.
but I held back. All right. So let us proceed with committee reports. And the first one is from Land Use and Transportation. Kelly.
So, land use and transportation, I think you've heard everything you need to know about slow streets tonight. So the other issue we've been dealing with is sidewalk infrastructure. So we had a presentation from PBOT. Mauricio and Andrew came to our March meeting to talk about sidewalk infrastructure. They maintained that Rose City Park was in pretty good shape compared to the rest of Portland. About 87.7% of Rose City has sidewalks compared to 63% citywide. They outlined some of the process that we would need to go through to get sidewalks added, including a local improvement district or the city engineer potentially compelling sidewalk installation due to safety or other reasons. Much of the sidewalk deficiency is along Normandale and Rose City Park. The Parks Bureau would need to pay for those improvements, which could be unlikely. We've written another letter to the city engineer with questions, and I'll update you when we know more. Traffic changes at Sandy, Alameda, and 57. So many of you probably got a little brochure from PBOT about the changes at Alameda, 57, and Sandy. PBOT is planning on making Alameda one-way westbound. We've asked for a traffic study to be completed before we meet with PBOT to discuss the change and are waiting to hear back. This is another PBOT issue that might be a done deal, but we're going to do everything we can to learn more about why this is needed and if there's any alternatives that should be considered. Finally, the Cully tax increment financing, or TIF. We had Roger Gonzalez from Prosper Portland and others come and outline the Cully TIF process at our February meeting. It includes 2 properties within Rose City Park, the Fire on the Mountain restaurant and the gas station properties. So there are some upcoming open houses to find out more about the process and status. Tamara and others are interested in maybe this is something Rose City Park could entertain in the future. So we're going to try and keep in touch with the Cully process, and maybe we'll do something like that in the future. That's all I got.
Any questions for Kelly?
Yes, Kelly, you said the gas station property. So is that just because of the way they drew the lines for their district? Because it seems like it's just like the one lot to the east there.
Yeah, and I never really understood why they drew it where they drew it, but it seemed to be a done deal.
Uh-huh.
So we before this meeting kind of thought that all of one side of Fremont was going to be part of the Cully TIF, and we wanted representation on the committee and a voice in the decision making.
Right.
And when it turned out it was only 2 properties, we said, oh, okay.
Kelly,
Yeah, Terry.
the one-way on Alameda is part of the Rose Lane project to give buses more green time. And I get this from Abel Bertelson and Zeph Wagner at PBOT.
Any other questions on that report? All right, let's move on to the newsletter update. Richard.
Oh, wow. As we do need articles and for tomorrow. And there were suggestions, and I don't have that stuff in front of me because I didn't expect to be doing this. I thought Jennifer was going to be here. But we do need, something from Kelly on the land use. What you just gave us would be fantastic. If Don has anything that he can give us from CNN, that would be good as well. Of course, we want to do lots of things on the garage sale. So because this will come out, well, actually, it might come out after the garage sale.
No, it's supposed to come out the beginning of May, the first week of
Yeah,
May, I
okay.
believe,
All
which is
right.
before the garage sale. So I've written a very short blurb about the garage sale. But if you have suggestions for sort of other, what else?
Yeah, anything else that's happening in the neighborhood that we need to, if you got anything, please get it to editor@rcpna.org. Tomorrow, let Michelle know what's going on. No,
Stephanie,
Sherry.
Stephanie, can you send me that write-up?
Can I send you that write-up?
Yeah.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Yeah,
will do
that way I can have it for the Star.
It's very short. Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Terry, do you have an input for the Star? Do you have something that
Well, yeah, we were going to try to get the garage sale, an article on the garage sale in the Star.
Okay.
And so if she's written something, then that's at least a good start for me to contact. I'm going to try to contact Phil Colombo. He may not be the right person, but he's the one that I know.
Yeah.
Terry, I think it should be something a little different because the RCPNA newsletter article is like, come out, buy things.
Okay,
Well,
well,
actually, maybe that would work. I'll send that
I
to
can
you.
rewrite it, but it's a start. It's something to start with.
Got it. Will do.
And I haven't contacted them yet. Their deadline is about the middle of April, if I remember right. So I'm going to have to do it fairly quickly here.
Yeah.
Okay, I will send that to you. I'm making a note. Okay, next is the RCPNA Playground Project, and I believe Jeff is...
Safety.
Oh, I'm sorry, safety. Yes, sorry about that. Don, safety.
Unmute, Don.
You'll be sorry, but I reported out a bit at the general meeting. One of the things that we have been looking at and considering is some sort of reconciliation project between the neighborhood and the people that organized the march that ended tragically at Normandale Park with the shooting. Tamara has been talking about some sort of event this summer to be held at Normandale Park. I was also looking at, in response to some neighbors' concerns about the covered shelter in the northwest corner of the park that had been covered with graffiti. A temporary memorial was set up, and it was there were people, mourners on site for quite some time. My understanding is that the memorial has been removed, and the last I heard, some of the graffiti was being removed by Parks and Rec. One of the concerns is, as I said, the reconciliation project, as well as a mechanism to discourage further graffiti in acknowledgement of that horrific event. We have been talking a little bit about the possibility of a mural to be placed on one of the walls, the exterior walls on that shelter. We've been talking about a design that will be created by neighborhood representatives, as well as representatives of the organizations that planned the march in the first place, and seeing if some sort of joint project can be put together, approved by PBOT, and then permanently placed on that wall as a memorial, but also a positive moving forward, recognizing the things that we need to do to maintain freedom of speech and reduce violence and create community. I have been in contact with the city to see the permitting process, what needs to be done for a mural to be accepted. I've got that. I'll be bringing that to the board at a later date when I get back together with Tamara and we flesh this out a little bit more. There's essentially for the mural, there's two processes. The mural can go through Regional Arts and Cultural Council and become part of the city public art installation. There could be funding involved, but we need to go through that process. Or we can apply for a mural permit through the Bureau of Development Services, but it requires the permission from the owner, which would be Parks, and it's a separate process. But as time goes on, if this process becomes more clear and we are approved to move forward by the board, then I would be willing, if we decide that this is a direction we want to go, to contact members of the organization and start talking about whether this would be something that people would be interested in.
Zach has his hand up.
Hey, Don, and thanks, Richard. Can you talk a little bit about I think it's like the big earthquake safety exercises that often happen as practice, and if we as a neighborhood are participating in those?
There are disaster events, both on the big scale, as in significant earthquake, and also on minor scale, a mass casualty incident. Those are primarily conducted by the neighborhood emergency team. Rose City Park does have a neighborhood emergency team, a NETS team. And the NETS team is generally takes part, a lot of it is in communication. And there's ongoing things like doing structural stability maps of potentially unstable buildings, things like that. That's kind of an ongoing process. As a neighborhood association, I don't believe we have been involved as a neighborhood in participating in those events. It's mostly the responders, and in the event of emergency, how do the responders coordinate, communicate among themselves, stage, respond to emergencies, and then interact with other neighborhoods, police and fire, and City Bureau of Emergency Management. So, but that does go on. It's a yearly thing. There's several yearly exercises that take place.
And is the NETS group, is that just separate from the neighborhood association? That's not part of your committee. They're a group, I'm assuming, overseen by a city or agency? No,
it's a neighborhood group. There's a neighborhood NETS team that hold monthly meetings. I just happen to be a member of the NETS.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Terry.
Yeah, Don, early on in your talk about the mural, you said it had to be approved by PBOT. It would be Parks, wouldn't it? Not PBOT?
I'm sorry, I misspoke, Terry. You're right.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
Other questions for Don? So Don, I have a question. I mean, is there an opportunity for synergy between the neighborhood association, even at some small level, and the NETS team? I mean, at the very least, I don't know, should we know when the exercises are happening, or are there ways to encourage neighbors to, sort of garden variety neighbors who might not be particularly on the NETS team to be proactive about their own planning? And I need to get a drink of water. I'm going to turn my video off, but I'm still here.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Right now, I mean, I because I'm on both the NETS and Rose City Park, I can kind of interface between the two groups. I know that in the past, the NETS have had a table at the general meetings and will pass out materials, talk to people that are interested if they'd like to join the NETS team, hand out some disaster preparedness information on survival in the first, or just getting along those first couple of weeks after disaster before outside forces can come in and provide some relief services. So we do that on an ongoing basis. And I would be happy to talk to the representatives, see if they would like to have a table or something set up at the next general meeting as well, to just kind of continue that. We've been doing that as kind of a general thing anyway, although we didn't this last candidates forum meeting.
Anything else for Don?
Thank you, Don.
So the next thing on the agenda is RCPNA playground project, but again, Jeff is not here. So that brings us to the end of the meeting.
Can I
Just
recap
yes.
what Jeff said at the general meeting, just in
Oh,
case?
please, yes,
You
please.
know, they have been fortunate enough to have become a project of the Portland Parks Foundation. And so there's additional monies that have come into them, and it's looking very positive that something is going to happen. There's nothing, no timeline set up yet. There's still money to be raised, but from a couple of guys getting together to say, you know, we need a place for our kids to play that's safe and is modern and is not going to be a hazard to them. This has come a long ways, and it's been 2 or 3 years that they've been operating on that, and we've had COVID and all that other stuff going on. But it was a very positive report. I really was pleased to hear how well it has been going. I see Terry's got his hand up over
Yeah,
there.
Richard, I just wanted to fill in the figures as I remember them. The project cost was about 235,000 and about 205,000 had been raised. We're about 30,000 short at this point.
Yeah,
So
thanks.
about, if I'm correct, I think that's what he said. So we think we can raise that.
Yeah. Or he thinks they can raise that. I don't.
That's what I meant. Yeah. You're correct.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions on the playground project? All right, so I'm following the agenda that Tamara made. It says recap and check-in and then adjourn. And does anyone want to suggest what recap and check-in means in this context?
Well, just, you know, what happened tonight, and I do want to say, you know, we're having elections at the May meeting, and not only is it elections for the officer sides, the chair, the secretary, the treasurer, and the vice chair, but we also are looking for folks who are interested in joining the board. You know, we have eight official on the board now, and that's not enough folks to get everything done that needs to be done. We have room for another, I think our charter says 15 or so. I think we can go up to 24, 25. Kelly, do you remember exactly what the number is?
Kelly, you are muted.
18 or something.
18 or something like that. Yeah, so there's plenty of room.
Oh, okay.
Terry.
I thought the total board number was 25, which would
Yeah.
include the officers.
Yeah.
And can someone remind us what the commitment is? Because there is a commitment, right? That to show up to a certain number of meetings, to serve on a committee, I think. Does someone have that top of mind?
I believe you've pretty much got it. You know, it's just to be consistent in coming to the meetings. And if you are not consistent with that, you will be deleted from the board after 3 or 4 meetings that have been missed. But that's all in the bylaws. I don't have them in front of me right now.
And
Richard, I believe that 3 or 4 unexcused meetings. Is that correct?
Unexcused. I think that's correct. Yeah.
Are there is there a method for people to join the board outside of the election if there are vacant slots, and what
Yes.
is that process?
They can just write and say, I would like to be on the board. And here's why, because I live in the neighborhood. I have this interest. I'm willing to give you the time to be on a committee and to assist with what needs to be done in board business.
Okay. All right. Well,
If
Does any-
there's no other business, I would move to adjourn.
I hear a motion to adjourn. And do we need a second for that or not even?
Yes.
We do.
I will second that motion.
All right, but there's no discussion, correct?
No,
It's
that's
just,
correct.
I knew there was something missing. Okay, so all in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Aye. All opposed. The motion passes. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you guys so much. Don, thank you for stepping up to take notes. Thank you to the neighbors who showed up. And yeah, we'll
Thank
see
you for doing a good job. Stephanie was very nice.
working at it. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.